All right, I think we're live. If anyone in the chat room can hear me, just push 1. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 765, Black Politics. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. I'm also here with my co-host, Man of Tomorrow. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, man?
Not much, bro. We're going to get into this, man. We're going to chop it up. We will cover this video. Let me share my screen. We can get started right away. Let me know in the chat room if you can see the screen.
Oh, it's a delay between Zoom and YouTube.
All right, thank you for the confirmation. Let's get started, man. Please mute up in the back.
I would talk to during our political moment. I'm fortunate and I'm grateful to know Michael Steele, who of course is the former chair of the RNC and Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. And he's now an MSNBC political analyst who helps us make sense of how this Republican Party has become so crazy. He is just an amazing voice, and I'm grateful to call Michael a friend. Thank you so much for being here, Michael.
Hey, Victor. Good to be with you, man. How's it going?
It's good. I'm currently in LA, so we're separated literally across the country, but it's glad to see you virtually.
Very good. Yeah, no, enjoy LA. You know, they got more snow out on your end of the world than we had on ours, so
I know.
I don't know. It's a little topsy-turvy. You know, I don't know why people just kind of overplay this, you know, environmental stuff. You know, global warming is not a thing, people. Get over it.
Well, we can definitely talk about cheek. No, it was revolting. I had a friend in DC, and she said, you know, check out. We were friends on Be Real, and she said, check my Be Real, and she was out in like a T-shirt in like a couple weeks ago where there was snow and hail here. So I'm very envious of your weather. But I want to talk about CPAC. But before I do, I want to ask you if you got a chance to see Tucker Carlson's how do I even say it? Lies, distortion, propaganda from last night about what happened on January 6th. And if so, what do you think we should make of it?
You know, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what the point of watching something like that is, other than for the clear, you know, clownishness of it. I mean, I don't know. There was nothing newsworthy or noteworthy in it. It was all propaganda. He's honing his, you know, his sort of authoritarian sort of skill set, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't pay much attention to it because I just think, you know, the fact that McCarthy gave all of this to just one individual, not a reporter, not a journalist, but a hype man for Putinism. No matter what he puts out, whenever he puts it out, what are we going to scream? It's a lie. I mean, of course we know it's a lie. It's 40,000 hours. He shows a 5-minute clip, and you got people on the internet now screaming, "See, I told you, I told you." I'm like, just shut the hell up. Yeah. Shut up. So I did not want to play in that reindeer game and watch Tucker do what Tucker does. He is, I mean, He's a sophisticated liar, propagandist, and Fox News and its board allows for him to do that every night, to go out and deliberately lie to the American people, and they think that's okay. Yeah. And I hope Dominion bankrupts them.
Yeah. Can I ask you about, so first of all, this morning, I didn't watch it last night, but I saw some clips this morning, and Elon Musk now is talking about how the January 6th committee has misled the public. But I want to get into the Dominion.
Elon Musk is another one who needs to shut the hell up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, really, Elon, seriously? Oh, so now, like, now January 6th got it wrong. And you have evidence of that because Tucker Carlson put something in front of you. You know, this sort of right-wing bullshit to me is just absolutely, we have to, as Americans, got to get a grip on this thing and stop it because the end game is not good. But anyway, you were going to make a point.
I mean, say it again. He's one of the longest lasting Republicans in the party.
Yeah.
I mean, he sounds like he's been on the Brain Trust a few times or on MOT's panel a few times.
Yep.
He's sick and tired of the same thing that we're sick and tired of. Okay. This is coming from a man who was the former chair of the RNC. If he's sick and tired of it. During the Obama administration. Go ahead, Nicole.
Don't forget, there are those who say he's a rhino. Right?
Oh yeah.
I just want to put that out.
Oh yeah. Let's hear what else he has to say.
You're a lawyer and you went to law school. I'm wondering what you make of this Dominion lawsuit and just how bad it is for Fox News. It's $1.6 billion in defamation fines, and I'm wondering what you think of that and whether or not you think that can spell the end of maybe not Fox News entirely, but maybe just putting an end to the lies that they go on air.
It won't spell the end of it. It will make a dent in it. I mean, but Fox News is still generating income.
Yeah.
You know, advertisers aren't pulling out of Fox orbit or not putting their products on their air. And that's the bottom line. I mean, hell, if I'm doing a bad thing and everyone keeps coming to my store or keep coming to me and supporting me, why would I stop doing a bad thing? Because I'm still getting paid to do a bad thing. And until the, advertisers stop being complicit with their dollars because they're more interested in selling their product to a hyper, evangelized community of anti-democratic Americans. I don't know what else we're going to do. I mean, do we just let this thing play out and just hope to heaven that it just kind of runs its course and then, like the song Tomorrow, tomorrow would be a better day. What, yes, it's a day away, but that day is as dark as today.
Yeah.
And so when do we step into our responsibility as citizens and say, this is not what we want to be? And for those of you who want this type of America, then leave, because that's not the America we're going to give you.
Yeah. Well, on that dark note, I want to ask you about this year's CPAC conference. And I want to give our audience, especially maybe those younger listeners and watchers who may only see CPAC through the lens of Trump, what it once stood for. And can you walk us through what CPAC once represented in the Republican Party when, say, you were the chair, and if we ever saw what we're seeing now?
So CPAC has always been an organ for younger, more libertarian-oriented Republicans, all right? And those Republicans who really adhere to one of the core values of republicanism, which was individual liberties and rights. So they were very much of a mind around, the less government interference in the decisions that Victor Shi would make about who he's going to love and where he's going to live and how he's going to raise his kids, and all of that would be left to Victor. The government has no role there. and the community in which you decide to live, presumably y'all kind of work it out, right? And so you make those decisions at the local level, from school board to, public safety, to all kinds of things that the community that you live in, which presumably kind of reflects some of your values, right? Decide how you want to live. So there was this day where it was a gathering of a lot of those types of young conservatives, and it was a great way for establishment politicians who want to be president to sort of roll through, give a great speech, and sort of win the day, and try to make inroads as they began to set up a presidential run. And in the course of that, the attendees would decide, who we like. And typically, Ron Paul was a perennial favorite for a lot of the delegates who attended, because, again, it was much more of a libertarian bent to it. Donald Trump's first appearance at CPAC was not a winning appearance. And I think it was early in 13 or 14. And he'd gone through, but it does speak to his ability to completely change the trajectory of this organization to the point now that no one wants to go to it.
Yeah. And we saw that with
and you would be a fool to be a part of the Republican Party today at this point in 2023. I don't know any black man worth his salt that is saying, we should go over here and find, sovereignty or sovereignty over there in the Republican Party today. It doesn't make any sense. As he broke down what conservatism previously was in the black manosphere, that doesn't even exist. That concept doesn't exist. Now it's all about anti-gynocracy, anti-democracy, anti-CRT, as funny as it is.
Stay home.
Yeah, stay home.
I'm not going to participate.
Yeah, non-participation within the political process. Judging by what Michael Steele is articulating, doesn't sound like these guys are pretty much conservative in this space at all. Nicole? All right, let's move on then.
The crowd size, small crowd size.
Just pathetic crowd size. It does not help that the head of the organization, Matt Schlapp, has been accused of pummeling a man's junk while he was being driven to the airport or a hotel. I don't even know how that narrative plays out, because they're all such good Christians. I went to my Bible immediately and tried to figure out where Christ was talking about pummeling someone's private parts, but I couldn't find it where he said that was okay. But they'll work that out, right? And so now it's become not even a respectable shadow of itself, of its former self. It is a national joke. Yeah. And I think this year, the attendance, the response, the lack of enthusiasm really reflected that. The fact that nobody of any political reputation was there, from the speaker to the minority leader in the Senate, to former electeds who are considering a presidential run. So, Victor, it is a wasteland of political grifters and liars, deniers, election deniers, Putinists, people who support Bolsonaro and Orban. They, in my view, crap on the legacy of Reagan and Bush, 41, Eisenhower. Men and some women who have led the party in a way that is no longer reflected by the gathering there at CPAC.
Do you think, so you mentioned the pathetic crowd size and the low enthusiasm. Do you think that's a good indication of where the Republican Party is going? Does that give you optimism?
That's an interesting way to put the question. No, it doesn't, because it just means probably something that folks had something else to do. It doesn't mean that they're less MAGA.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that they're less radicalized towards anti-democratic behavior. It doesn't mean that should a call come for another January 6th that they won't show up en masse. So people need to step back and stop, projecting that, oh, well, this means this. It doesn't mean jack. All it means is that for this gathering, probably due to a confluence of a lot of circumstances, from match slap to, I got something to do on Saturday night, people didn't show up. I would not bank on that as a show of a lack of enthusiasm. Why? Because Donald Trump is leading in every poll. And not just leading, but his poll numbers are riding. And I said this in the fall, when people are all hyped up about Donald Trump not, performing well or not doing this. And then when DeSantis came on, the great white hope of Ron DeSantis coming in to save, the right white people, I guess. I have no idea what his story is. I do, but we'll get into that maybe later. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, y'all need to just take the stupid cap off, because Ron DeSantis, has a glass jaw. He's never been hit. And folks, it's not Michael Steele saying that. Honest to God, ask yourself, how do you lose a gubernatorial debate to Charlie Crist?
And
that's no fight on Charlie Crist. But if you're all that in a bag of, hot Doritos, then you take him out. But you go watch that debate for the governor's race back in, I think it was October of last year, and you just see how weak he is in the jaw, how weak he is politically. He will not translate outside of Florida. I still hold that until proven otherwise. So I
got to stop right here, because we've been spot on about this. DeSantis can't win outside of Florida at all. Mike is spot on with saying that DeSantis has a glass jaw. I can't, I think that's a perfect description of what DeSantis looks like right now in a debate on stage with Donald Trump. His jaw is made of glass. Kemp 2, Youngkin, Hot Wheels down in Texas. I think all those guys are pretty much stooges at this point. I don't see how they're gonna be able to get past Trump on stage. We've been saying this for months, though.
No question about it, Mike. Trump is going to wipe the floor with these guys and have them walking out the door. He's going to wipe the floor with them. There's definitely no doubt about that. DeSantis is a regional candidate at best. He's regional. And much of what he's doing in Florida, he's trying to go so extreme to galvanize a base. Well, look what I'm doing in Florida. Look what's going on. We're going to galvanize the base here. Even Trump and these guys are going to look at him almost going extreme, and is going to use that against him in so many ways to further galvanize his base. So these guys don't. You and I have talked about this a lot. We see how Trump is pulling together his people. I just, there's no way that Trump is gonna lose in any serious Republican primary at this stage. I see coming up. For the 2024 presidential election, I don't see him losing that, and I don't see any of these other guys, because I don't see any of these other guys winning. Their bench is weak. It's weak, and the best guy they do have is Trump. But anyway, go ahead, MOT.
You have to understand that he's a presumptive nominee at this point. Presumptive.
Yep.
And you have to understand that the people who are running are far weaker than it was during the actual 2016 thing.
20. 16.
People are far weaker than it was. And he's going to steamroll these guys. This is how come they're not going up against them very hard, because they're trying to raise as much money that they can before they get steamrolled.
I was just telling people, Victor, look, Donald Trump hasn't engaged anybody yet. All Donald Trump did was announce he's running for president, barely, and he hasn't come out here, putting on the big town hall rallies. I mean, please don't take CPAC as a gauge of a lack of enthusiasm and support for Donald Trump, because you are going to be going down a wrong road. This man not only has staying power, he has growing power. Yeah. There are a lot more Americans out there, Victor, and you and I have talked about this. Yeah. There are a lot more Americans out there who support Donald Trump and probably don't have a problem with him being the next president of the United States than we are willing to admit. Wow. That's horrifying. And one of the reasons why I admire you, Michael, is because, we disagree on policies, I'm sure, but you aren't afraid to call out this Republican Party and Trump. And in this moment, I'm wondering what message you have for traditional Republicans, traditional conservatives who aren't speaking out, and maybe why they aren't speaking out. What would you tell them? I appreciate that question, and I'm actually glad you asked it. I've been thinking a lot on this in recent months, particularly as I watched Kevin McCarthy take all the power of his leadership and give it to some bat-brained congresswoman from Georgia who doesn't know her head from a hole in the wall. And goes out and pronounces, we should succeed. The country needs to be divided into red and blue states. I'm like, hey, dumbass, you're in a blue state. I'm sorry. It just so aggravates me. And what I find so distressing that propels that aggravation to new levels is that there are a lot more Republicans out there who think like I do and feel like I do about the party. I haven't given up on the party, which is why I haven't left. Yeah, because I still believe there are the founding ideals of our party still should resonate. And if you find the right messengers and you find the right vehicles in order to convey that message that reasserts Madisonian democracy, Madisonian principles around governing, the ideas that were that you and I could go back to debating whether or not trickle down economics works, or whether or not we should have national health care. All of those things are good, healthy debates for a thriving republic to have. But we can't have those debates. We can't have that conversation because of the numbnuts in Washington who can't find a pair among them to just stand up and look at someone like Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Gosar, and others and say, shut the hell up, sit down. This is not America. This is not America with a K. All right? And so it's really distressing. So I would say to them, find that inner strength to be willing to sacrifice something for the country, right? Yeah. Look, I know I've made so many political enemies over the last 6 years. I mean, people that were besties with me won't even return a phone call. Wow. I can't, I get and the thing about living in Washington, Victor, is that everybody talks to everybody. I was born and raised here, so I know pretty much everybody. It's not hard, right? So word gets back, I know who's running their mouths, and that's fine. I don't care, because what the bigger and most important thing for me is being able to pass on a country that people want to live in, pass on a country that people can thrive in, pass on a country that can remain a symbol of democracy to the world, where people want to come to this and be a part of this experiment, where their cultural and family legacy can be wrapped into the red, white, and blue of America. That to me should be what this is about. I don't want to turn people away. I don't want to, go after a 15-year-old kid who's trying to discover their sexuality. I don't want to tell an 8-year-old, you can't read, Huckleberry Finn, or you can't read, the writings of a modern day author who's trying to contextualize American history for you so that you have a better appreciation of why we're such a good country, why this system works. But so that's where I am, and I'm hoping more people will find that.
So there it is. Long-term Republican, long-term conservative, those are the values he stands on. when we come to the manosphere, you get these guys who say, you know, I want to cut out welfare just for Black women and let everybody else have it. That's not conservatism. Sitting at home on your thumbs, not conservatism. Not understanding the process, not conservatism. You're not a conservative. And that's where we stand right now. You have people who are postulating and pretending to be in conservative cosplay by not liking CRT or AP African American Studies, or they don't like quote unquote legislates. That doesn't make you a conservative. This is coming straight out of the mouth of a long-time Republican and long-time conservative. How do you argue against that? What's the response? Oh, well, there's more than one way to be conservative. Oh, really? Nicole?
Most of these people who call themselves conservatives have never followed the true conservative movement here in this country for any period of time. They haven't been in the conservative or the conservative party or the wing of the Republican Party that calls itself conservative for years. Michael Steele, he's a little bit older than I am, but he's been in the Republican Party as a conservative since around 1976 or so. So he's been in the Republican Party for decades. Understands the party, how it's grown, understands the conservative movement, understands it even from a Black perspective, understanding the history. Another thing about Michael Steele, he understands the demographics. He looks at the numbers. He understands where we are in this, and he understands the Black community. He understands the conservative aspect of the Black community that we have, that he stands on, that we all kind of are a part of to a large extent. He understands that as well, and understands how that's going to play out in the future, and sees where this party is going currently right now, which is really not in your favor. And they're trying to push a different narrative that's going to ultimately destroy the party. And that's where his real problems are really coming from with the Republicans, and sees where this thing is really going. Michael Steele understands conservatism. These people here who call themselves conservatives don't understand it, don't stand on real conservative so-called principles. And when you ask them what those principles are, they'll tell you some things that cannot differentiate from what Democrats stand on, except LGBT and and these Black women and some other things that they want to sit down and rail at, which when you listen to them to a large extent, really talking about this from a party and a real conceptual level of what conservatism is, it's ridiculous. But this is where we are with these folks. That's why you see them falling apart as we talk. But just continue to go on. This has to continue to be pushed out here so people can get a good understanding of this. There are those who, I will repeat once again, who will say Michael Steele is a rhino. They'll say this who think they're conservatives here. Think about that as he continues to speak on what this conservatism is all about. Go ahead, Mike. You and MOT, break it further down.
Well, the problem here is where actual conservatism actually starts. It doesn't start with the complaints of women. It's not a part of any platform, and it never has been. So this is what you always are going to get. You're always going to get the people who were a part of the party versus the people who are the real rhinos who just showed up, who are now part of the party. None of them covered CPAC. None of them covered anything. More people covered Chris Rock's actual stand-up than actual CPAC. Actually, all the conservatives, the fake ones, covered Chris Rock's stand-up special rather than CPAC. It's ridiculous.
All right, let's finish this up.
The reserve, the nerve, the resolve, whatever, to join in that fight.
I hope so too. And Michael, I'm gonna have you back on because this was such a phenomenal conversation, and I have so many more questions to ask you. But because the format of the show is quick, I think that's the perfect place to end. Hopefully, Republicans will grow a spine and stand up to what's happening right now. But I'm grateful for your voice, and thank you for all that you do.
I appreciate you, my friend. I'll see you back here in DC, babe.
Thanks so much.
All right. So this is where we at, man. There is no Republican Party at this point. It's a roach motel. Okay, you get in, but you can't get out. For all intents and purposes, there's nothing holding up the Republican Party other than Donald Trump. And if he can't get it, if he can't get it in 2024, the party's finished, because you can't walk back from where it is right now. It's just impossible. So what I'm going to do is drop the link in the chat. And if anybody wants to defend CPAC, Republican Party, manosphere, conservatism, please hit the link and come up and defend, the state of conservatism in the body politic and in the space itself. Either way, where are your disagreements on this? You have a long time sitting Republican, former RNC chairman, and conservative, dispelling all the myths about social media conservatism, because that's pretty much where it is right now. You have guys in this space who are saying you should stay home, sit on your thumbs, don't vote, anti-gonarchy, ban CRT, ban AP African American Studies, align yourself with the right wing, DeSantis, Kemp, go against Stacey Abrams, go against Keisha Lance Bottoms, and don't support black male candidates either. That's another bullet point that they have too. Don't support black male candidates, unless they come to the manosphere first. If they don't come to the manosphere, then don't vote for them. I mean, you can't make this up.
Yeah, let's see who wants to come up and defend this.
I mean, they're mostly cowards at the end of the day. They want to have their own bubble of ignorance. They don't want to discuss anything except for the people who actually agree with them. Like, you can't have a conversation with these people unless it's the same class of ignorant people. I mean, that's what we've actually turned this place into. A place where there's real discussions about real things, and then there's fake discussions, parody-based discussions about real things. Oh, we just did an economics panel. Yeah, everybody else contributed but you. That doesn't mean that you was on a panel discussing economics. Like, oh, okay, now back to the women. It's like, come on, dude. You can't keep playing games with this. Like, we gotta have some progress anytime anytime now. But it seems like the people who have the less to say about everything want to be the people who be out front representing the so-called space. It's ridiculous.
I would say that their interest is not about progress at all. It's keeping things at status quo. Like, we see, how many times have we seen this gender fight restarted here, and all this other stuff? I mean, nobody wants to move past that. At the end of the day, it is more about entertainment and sitting around and kind of hanging out from that perspective than really talking about anything. Now, we're looking to change stuff, and no, this is about give the proper information with people who want to be involved locally in their communities and so forth, understand how things work. So if you really do want to see some things change, then you may have some knowledge or some or get a better insight in kind of how that works. If you think you're going to change things from a live stream, well, we can change from a live stream, and we can change this thing that's happening here from a live stream. It's the most ridiculous thing you ever heard. These people are not serious. As I said, long time ago, my old man taught me, if they don't have a bottom line out here, they're trying to BS you. And then that's the real deal. These guys don't have a bottom line. They're out here BSing, playing certain kind of games. I get it. But at the end of the day, if you're really talking about politics, and you're talking about black politics, especially, that involves, a few things. And you have to be knowledgeable of what's going on. Certainly in your community, you got to understand the process. You got to know how things work, because if you want to get certain things done, you're not going to be able to get around these things. So that's kind of where it's at. Most of these people here are not serious. I get it. All right. But don't come here and say, hey, we're changing things or whatever, being ignorant as hell, not have no knowledge. And I've been shocked at some of the stuff that I've seen. like Dana coming up here and the other people coming and talking about being a Republican don't understand the Southern strategy and these things, which are being utilized today. Going against CRT and all that. All that is Southern strategy. Most people don't even understand what CRT is, but they're utilizing it in such a way to ultimately to shut you down. But a lot of these people just don't understand this, and they're calling themselves being involved in politics or understanding, or talking about politics. And I find this incredible, but that is what's going on. And, we'll just be here to kind of keep some of the balance, going right. Let's put out the right information for a lot of people. I don't respect bald ignorance. I don't respect it. And pushing it off as if it's all good. That's got to kind of come to an end. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, one of the things I noticed that Michael Steele said in the interview was that people who used to be his besties are no longer his besties now after Trump. They stopped calling him, or they blocked his number for that matter. This is the reality of the Republican Party and the conservative movement, that if you don't agree with the actual rhino, then you can now be seen as the rhino. But Black men today don't understand that their perspective on conservatism is not the same as these folk over there. They just don't, they don't play by the same rules. And I don't think that Black men really understand that you're not going to be able to cut welfare or social services from just Black women and then leave all the rest of it intact for everyone else. It makes absolutely no sense. You're not going to be able to have a proverbial table and have women come back to it and then call that, a state of conservatism. There's no such thing as this. This is just, it's a bunch of bullshit. Like Michael Steele said himself, it's a bunch of bullshit. There's no way you're going to be able to push that agenda. What I find really interesting is that, go ahead. I don't know who's that trying to speak. MOT or Indigo.
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Go ahead. You got it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
No, I was just saying that I think Black men's lack of political literacy can be cosplayed as conservatism, because it doesn't take much to be a conservative today, as opposed to when Michael Steele was coming in. And so you can just postulate as if you're, well, I don't want government all in my business. Oh, really? So how do you get affirmative action then? Oh, well, I don't need that. I can just do this all on my own. Oh, really? Where do you live? I live in New York City. Oh, all right, man. Thanks for playing, man. You live in one of the bluest places in the country, but you think that you can kind of, be a conservative to yourself in this sort of super blue state, like he said about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She said that we should, have a national divorce. It should be red and blue. Newsflash, you are in a blue state right now. What are you talking about? You sent 2 senators all the way up to Washington. What are you talking about? But this is the state of things to be. And I don't see anybody in here covering CPAC. I don't see anybody in here covering any conservative for that matter outside of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's not a conservative, so let that sink in. And they're not covering Black men who are actual conservatives running for office, like John James out in Michigan, or what's this brother down in Florida, Byron Donalds. I don't see these guys covering him. Oh, I like his talking points. Really? Why don't you go look at his bills that have that he's proposed, sponsored, and passed? Let's look at the track record. See, being a conservative doesn't necessarily mean track record. It just means state of being. Go ahead, Nicole. Go ahead, Nicole. Oh, all right.
I wouldn't say anything, Mike. I wouldn't say anything. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that when it comes to Black politics, it's always limited to one or two things that you can find, you know, in the thimble, for that matter. You know, I don't want government in my business, child support, and I don't want certain people getting social services. That's just not the basis of conservatism. I mean, you could have said, you know, 25, 30, 35 years ago, I want smaller government, but we now see that when conservatives get into office, they don't really govern too much. I mean, how do you explain Mississippi? Mississippi is conservatively run and believes in small government. So small, man, they could fit their government inside of a tiny house down there. No one wants to talk about that, though. No one wants to talk about how Governor Kemp has been governing, or the lack of governance in Georgia, for that matter. No one wants to talk about what's going on in Alabama, how they took the COVID relief funds. The governor took the COVID relief funds that came from Washington and spent it on prisons. Meanwhile, you have Black people starving to death down there and down in Selma. I just don't understand. I don't understand Black men today in their politics. I don't get it.
I think
Ronnie Unsung says, don't forget they want Black women's submission. Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a certain sector. Most of, when we look at the overall Black community, we're looking at Black men in the overall, they're not going against what they would consider their interests. You have some who are, but that's not even it may be perceived as a giant growing type of being. But when we look at the voting patterns, and we certainly saw from the last set of voting patterns that we saw, we didn't evidence that. We didn't see it. All right. And we really didn't see it that much, even in Georgia, to be quite frank with you. So we're not really seeing this as what a lot of people are saying. So there's a certain perception out here that's being pushed that's not really accurate when we start to break down the numbers. So, you know, to a large extent, it's going to have to come down to, once again, Black people politically organizing and really, if anything, what you really want to get pushed, you're going to have to work on the ground, grassroots to get it. You know, we were working on some housing programs here in my town. We were working on, you guys know, I'm involved locally, politically, and we had some candidates who were really out there who were getting elected and so forth, and doing voter registration drives and really pushing a lot of things hard on the ground. And certain things really started getting done just from getting your people in there and doing a lot of organizing. This is hard work, so it's not easy. You know, I would talk to you guys what we were doing when I was doing voter registration drives and coming out and saying, man, it's hard work, man. It's not that easy. I'm not gonna lie. It's not that easy a lot of times, especially when you're going door to door and, you're really, getting people involved. It is work, but that's what it's going to take. And a lot of people don't really want to do that. And like I said, they want to sit on a live stream and, well, we can organize from a live stream and talk all this kind of madness and have nothing done because they're not serious about getting anything done anyway, as far as politically or even just talking about it in a way that will help people maybe to get involved locally or where they are. They're not about that. That's just not what this is about for a lot of these people. But when we start talking about conservatism and really looking at it, these guys are not even in the ballpark. They're truly not in the ballpark. And when you're looking at white conservatives as it's concerned with the Black community, you're looking at a crew that are against you. And as we get a little bit deeper in this conversation, you start to see certain things, such as we're seeing in Mississippi and so forth. They're literally trying to separate themselves from you to a large extent. And this is some very serious stuff that's going on right now. How are we going to be dealing with some of this in the future as this moves forward? It's going to be very interesting. But a lot of these people sitting on their heels and talking about getting submission from Black women and all this and take care of my child support and all that kind of thing. There's going to be a whole different set of dynamics and metrics coming down, and we're going to have to see how we're going to deal with that on the ground realistically. And I don't believe that any of these people who are talking about being conservatives are in any level of position to even begin to address this. So I'll I'll pass this off to you, to Mike and MOT. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we went from you're from Mississippi to Mississippi being in the news for things that were going on 200 years ago. And people keep trying to ask me, so how come you're not conservative? Yeah, the state of Mississippi is a really good reason. I don't talk about it, but once it becomes nationwide news, yeah, it's a pretty good reason if you can't get water straight. and it's like, none of these people are like going for timeshares in Mississippi, but they all of a sudden are this type of conservative out of nowhere. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it, man. What the actual plan is
we can look at each.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's just that we can just look at the numbers. Actually, let me pull up the numbers now. For those who live in New Jersey, I can pull up the numbers for you. Dollar Wolf says most of these so-called conservatives are really just disaffected liberals. Yeah, I would say so too. Based on their arguments, I would say so too, that, you know, there's nothing really conservative about them at all. You know, I don't really
based on the women that they want to submit as well.
The way how, yeah, that's actually a really good point. Because in reality, they don't really have a gripe with the federal government, right? They don't really believe in small government either. I mean, they say small government, but it doesn't matriculate into anything. It doesn't seem like it matters in the grand scheme of things. Like, their idea of small government is not having an actual governor of a state. Like, they believe, you know, a mayor should be able to control as much as he can within his sphere of influence, and there should be like no sort of hierarchy above him, like that, or a mayor itself, whether it's male or female. And so it just seems like the politic is empty. It's a house without any walls. There's no sort of real structural thinking behind it. I can't imagine that anybody can claim to be conservative in this day and time in this space and still be about the business. It doesn't seem to align with any sort of business process at all. Jay Charles says,
I don't think they really care.
I don't think, yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, the problem is that what used to be a conservative 5 or 6 years ago, before the level of information started being pretty rampant within the environment, it's just, it's different now. It's kind of how, like, you know, people used to call themselves all types of things, but once the information in the environment moves to a certain level, you really can't pull that stuff anymore. You really can't.
Yeah.
When
Charles says, I don't think the majority. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Let me read that. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, Mike. Go ahead. Read that. That's good.
No, Jay Charles says, I don't think Jay Charles says, I don't think majority in the sphere know what exactly going on regarding policy in Supreme Court cases. They aren't covering it. I mean, fair enough assessment. Romeo Sung says, it's just a way to troll the Black outcomes that most played a part of during their youth. Go ahead, Nagon.
No, I think these are, he's hitting it right on the head. And as far as really them understanding policies, Supreme Court cases, and even who's out here, you start questioning these people, they don't know. We've seen it before. I ask them, what do you know about you know, the Supreme Court judge, Coney Bryant and all that? What do you know about them? Oh, we love them. what did you love about them? What did they have to say? Hamana. You know, they don't know anything. Most of these people here, they don't know anything. It's they're railing against a certain part of the system that has them disaffected. You know, I get the disaffection. We're brothers out here. We can be disaffected by some things, but when you look at it politically, how are you looking to solve some of these issues? And going to the far right, who are people who are really against you, is really not the answer. When we look at conservatism from the standpoint of MAGA and so forth that we see today, what are you looking at? You're looking at a great degree of racial tension. There's a racial tension against you. There is. When we look at January 6th, and we saw those, you know, that riot happened. People were in the Capitol building with the Confederate flags flying and so forth. What were they trying to say there? So you have to look at a lot of this. You know, when you look at Charlottesville and the Tiki Torch people, they weren't talking about, you know, joining with Black men and joining with your issues. They're not coming from that. That's not where they're really coming from. And there are those that here that understand this, but they want to obfuscate. I get some of that, but the reality is you have to look at this thing for truly what it is. And a lot of people don't want to deal with that. But you're going to have to come to grips with this, because it's going to come to grips with you, whether you like it or not. So, you know, Mike, go ahead.
No, I was just going to cover Ohio, just out of sheer curiosity about what was on the ballot, because what you hear in the manosphere is that Black men should vote their, you know, vote their interests, right? Vote their interests. Black men should vote their interests. Well, let's look at Ohio's ballot. Just out of curiosity, what was on the ballot in Ohio? Okay. Statewide ballot measures for Ohio in midterm 2022. Issue 1 on the ballot: require judges to use factors such as public safety, including the seriousness of the offense and a person's criminal record, when setting amounts and conditions of bail. 78% voted yes and 22% voted no. Issue number 2: prohibit local governments from allowing persons who lack the qualifications of an elector, including citizenship, to vote in elections. 77% voted yay and 23% voted no. So, in what way, if you live in Ohio, translate that into how this is somehow Black men's, interest. Whether you live in Columbus or Cleveland or wherever it is, this was a statewide ballot measure. Okay. Black men should vote their interests. What's on the ballot right here? Is that Black men's interest too? Anybody want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about interest pretty much covers the fact that you don't know what's going on, so be as selfish as possible. I think that everybody's just going to be able to go along with it. But if you ask them, "Oh, do you want to pay taxes?" "No, that's my interest." Okay. So that's your interest, but right. How do you have interest if you don't keep up with what's actually going on? How do you have interest if you don't have what's going on? "Oh, I'm just all for me." Right. All right, man. Go have a seat, man.
Yeah, man. How do you have interest when you're not participating? How do you have interest when you're not participating? Oh. Well, I care about what my tax dollars are going. Are you participating in the system? Are you involved at all? You know, if you're not, then what are we talking about here?
So Spawn the program in the chat says, I'm all for small government, but I also want things to work. I just don't want my tax dollars going to something that isn't going to better society. Well, let's think about this for a second. Small government and things to work. Can you show me examples of small government and where things work in this country? I don't recall off the top of my head that, you know, where you can have small government and things just work. I haven't seen it. Oh, okay, well, let's use West Virginia. Yeah, small government, but do things work there? I don't know.
Oh,
No, take the latter half of his question, or of his statement. I just don't want my tax dollars going to something that isn't going to better society. Yeah, but the thing here is, when Trump did his tax cuts in 2018, folks said that they made so much money back then. They said they made so much money back then, but they said that they were paying $1.70 for gas. Think about this, man. $1.70 for gas in 2019. Actually, you know what? Let's pull up Gas Buddy and let's look for ourselves. Was gas $1.70 in 2019? Go ahead, Nicole.
No, Mike. You pull that up. That's an excellent point. I'm just sitting here listening. That's excellent. Go ahead, continue.
I mean, I think it's kind of.
All right, let me share my screen real quick.
When it comes to wasteful spending, it's either wasteful spending on tax cuts because people are not paying in, or what they consider wasteful spending is on expanding the social safety net for people. So one side look at one thing one way, and one side look at things another way. So,
yeah,
kind of a package deal, man.
So, So this is from GasBuddy.com, probably one of the most accurate websites for gas prices in the country. 100-month average retail price chart. So in 2019, gas was $2.61. It was never $1.70. Okay, that never happened. The last time gas was $1.70 was when Obama was in office, which was what is that? March 12th, or maybe December. Yeah, it looks like December. So I don't know. I don't know where they're getting this from.
No, when you're not used to being challenged, you can pretty much say whatever you want to. That's kind of what the issue is. And it's kind of like being a conservative, like I said, okay. Let's go pre-Trump. Being a conservative meant you could lie about whatever you wanted to, because nobody was going to check you on your conservatism. Because the only thing you was conservative about was not participating in the process. This is why these people are never having any type of discussions about the political process, because they clearly just can't do it. They can't do it.
Well, the reason why they can't do it is because when you really start to get to the numbers and you start really looking at what's going on, it doesn't support their argument. That's why much of this and much of the arguments that you're dealing with some of these so-called conservatives, or what I say, these reactionary right people, more of it is more emotional. They're dealing from a more emotional perspective. They're not dealing with things really from a real factual perspective as to what's really going on the ground. It's a perception of how they feel, and they feel a certain way, and they're going to respond a certain way. A lot of these white guys out here feel as though, they're losing the country, they're losing this and they're losing that, because of, the changing demographics. The changing demographics that are out here, and they're driving a lot of this, disaffection because they're feeling disaffected. Much of it is emotional. A lot of these black men who are here on this side of the fence who are talking a lot, they're not active, they're not doing much, out here in the society and culture. They're not doing jack, but they're feeling disaffected and they're angry because of their circumstances with child support. A lot of these guys are really, they've been not too successful, and they're out on the margins, and they're not really getting much done themselves personally, and they feel that that somebody should answer for that, and they're feeling disaffected as well. And since that is the case, they're gonna react very much emotionally the same way, and facts are not really going to play a huge role, and that's a big part of what we're dealing with. And they start talking about taxes and small government and all these kind of things. I'm sorry, I start going back to the Southern strategy on that, and that basically means pretty much let's go against you Negroes to a large extent. Let's move things in such a way where we're putting ourselves, as far as the majority community, more in power and keeping you down to a large extent, or looking to further marginalize yourself because we're worried about some of these things. So you have to look at this in a sophisticated type of way as to what this really means. But we're not really looking to look at that because there's a lot of emotionality coming in here, and when people are emotional, it's hard to really get a very intelligent conversation going on a lot of this stuff. You hear people coming up here talking politics, don't know, once again, don't even know what the Southern strategy is, don't have any idea what that is, but they're talking politics. I find this amazing once again. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to MOT's live stream this morning, and you had a certain content creator, Hulk out, man. He couldn't handle the conversation about male individual power and liberty versus collective power. And the first thing he defaulted back to was the gynocracy. when all else fails, blame the gynocracy.
The Hail Mary or the Hail gynocracy pass.
Yeah. Spidey in the chat says it would be nice to see less corporate meddling in politics as we see now. It's literally destroying the world around us. But of course, this has become a pipe dream. Well, nobody has anything to say about the Koch brothers,
Koch brothers, yeah.
And they're meddling in politics. No one, yeah.
No one had anything to say about the
no one has anything to say about
Supreme Court decision. Nobody had anything to say about that.
No, not at all. Unlimited money coming in. Unlimited dough coming in from anywhere, any corporation, anything. Unlimited. No one said anything about that. Yeah. Unlimited.
Unbelievable. And so for those who want to know what the gas prices were, when old buddy was in office, the Tangerine Tyrant, it was never $1.70. There's no data that is present that can say that across the US on average, it was never $1.70. It was $2.61 at best. So we've dispelled that myth. We've went to the Ohio ballot. I did not see black men's interest on the ballot. I don't know what you consider to be black men's interest, but
nothing.
Yeah, I didn't see it there. So, let's look up the Texas ballot.
Sure. You know what? We should do like a ballot discussion before the next election. We should do the ballot discussion for all 50 states, or at least like half of them, where the majority of where people live at.
Exactly, and look at the positions that are being put on the ballot. Let's look at what people are going to vote on. Let's see what people have to say. Most of these guys who sit here won't have a clue as to what's going on. They'll be clueless. but they'll be here sitting there telling you all kind of craziness and screaming, but yet will not have a clue as to what's on the ballot or what's really going on the ground, and forget about what's happening locally in their community. Forget about it. Most of these guys who are out here doing a lot of screaming and are very upset are not even registered to vote. They're not even involved in the process, which I find rather interesting.
Yeah, here are Texas ballot measures for 2022. I don't even think anybody can see my screen.
I mean, I can zoom in on Zoom.
Okay.
But
No, that's fine. I think it's delayed by 10 seconds.
okay.
The Texas state legislature referred 2 amendments to the ballot related to taxes. A measure that would authorize the state legislature to reduce the limit on property taxes imposed on the homesteads of elderly or disabled residents to reflect any tax reduction enacted by law from the preceding tax year. That's one. 2 is a measure to increase the homestead exemption for school district property taxes from $25,000 to $40,000. The former, I don't know so much if that's a blackmail issue, but the latter, I can make a case
No,
for.
that's right. Housing. Yeah, housing.
Yeah. A measure to increase the homestead exemption for school district property taxes from $25,000 to $40,000. Well, I mean, you got to get your taxes from somewhere, right? Isn't Texas one of those states that doesn't have income tax?
Yes.
So where are they going to get it from?
They're just blowing holes in the budget, man. Like, they don't really care about paying for it. I mean, now that the roads are already built, so they're just going to start blowing holes in things to make sure they don't have enough money for infrastructure. These are the same people who pipes keep freezing whenever it goes below freezing. And now you want to blow holes in the budget rather than fix your infrastructure? All right, man, I guess.
I don't know, man. I don't see many blackmail interest on these ballots. Do you, Nagon?
No, I mean, but what that means is vote your interest.
I see nothing. I see nothing there.
Stir confusion around your own ignorance of the process and use black men's political ignorance as a weapon against them. That's all it means, because it doesn't mean anything. Like, oh, vote your interest. What interest do you have? There's a party that wants to remove Black history from books in schools, and the other side is fighting against them. But somehow you got interest outside of all that. Oh, okay. All right.
Darlow asks a very interesting question. Is sales tax higher in states without state income tax?
No, it's
I'm not
cascaded over
entirely
different things.
sure.
No, everything else goes up.
Yeah, gas taxes and things like that tend to be what they go after. Things that are more consumable.
Rhode Island, they sit next to you. They don't really have a state income tax, do they?
No, but if you work, well, I think if you work in Massachusetts and you live in Rhode Island, I think you do have to pay a tax then. It's funky when you go do your taxes, but if you look at their infrastructure and their environment, you'll see the difference. It's a night and day difference when you come across both borders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, syntax. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And with cigarettes and these kind of things, they get hit a lot harder and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and also to Dollar Will's question, In New Hampshire, if your house can see the water, you pay something called a view tax.
Okay.
So that's why you don't. That's why you notice, like, if you look at a map, you'll see that most people live on the border in New Hampshire, kind of like Canada. They don't really live too far up north.
Yeah, I mean, that landscape is pretty rough in New Hampshire. That landscape.
Say that one more time.
Pretty rough. I said that landscape is pretty rough, man. I don't think that's by choice.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
A lot of that place is undeveloped. It's kind of like when you're going into Maine, for the very first 5 exits, it's like that all over New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Uneven ground. You're gonna have to put a lot of stuff into that stuff to make that work.
Hey, Mike, did you drop the link?
There's a link in the chat.
Oh, okay. I want to see if some folks want to come up and defend some of this.
Nope. There's a recent link in there. Went in there 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
Let's pull up California's ballot measures. Let's look at what they this is for 2022. Let me pull this up.
Yeah, man. You know, home of the 3 a.m. link drop. No, anybody can get it at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me here is prop 1. This is from Politico. So take it with a grain of salt for right now. Abortion constitutional language. How we got here. Ever since the leaked Supreme Court draft overturning Roe v. Wade, California legislators have scrambled to protect the right to reproductive freedom and privacy, including the choice to have an abortion or use contraceptives. This ballot measure puts that question to voters, allowing them to enshrine abortion and contraception rights in California state constitution. No official support or opposition committees have been announced, but abortion has been a hot button topic across the aisle. The potential impact. Sports betting on tribal lands. Allowing online sports betting. Art and music K through 12 funding. Kidney dialysis rule reforms. Wealth tax to support clean air programs. I don't know how much this really impacts Black men.
Me neither.
Oh, wait, it does. I guess if you make that kind of money, you're probably not in the manosphere. But this is a wealth tax, though. The initiative would tack a 1.75 percentage point tax increase on personal income over $2 million for individuals or married couples. That would generate an estimated $3 billion to $4.5 billion annually, according to the nonpartisan legislative analyst's office. That funding would be split up between 3 pools: 45% for electric vehicle incentives, 35% for building EV infrastructure, and 20% for wildfire prevention. Uphold flavored tobacco ban. Is that really a Black male concern? I don't know. A lot of niggas here do be smoking, man.
I don't think it's tobacco.
Where are all these Black male interests? Well, where are all these Black men who say vote your interest? Where are the interests at on the ballot?
Yeah.
Where are they at?
They're never around for a direct conversation. They say they want to schedule something and then nothing gets scheduled. Huh, strange. When it comes time for you to explain yourself, there's never any room to actually explain yourself. I wonder what that's about.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So here's the, let me share my screen real quick. Give it a few seconds. This is from ballotpedia.org. California 2022 ballot propositions. What's on the ballot? Provide a state constitutional right to reproductive freedom defined to include abortion and contraceptives. 67% said yes and 33% said no. Okay. Legalize sports betting at American Indian gaming casinos and licensed racetracks in California. 33% said yay and 67% said no. Now, I know a lot of dudes in this space be claiming to, they got some Indian in them, they got that good hair. I don't know if that's really a black male concern.
Sound like a legitimate black male.
Prop 27.
Oh my God.
Prop 27, legalize online mobile sports betting in California. 18% said yes and 82% said no. I don't know if that's a black male issue. I don't know if you can vote your interest right there. Unless you want to, include, I should be able to super chat whatever grifter I want. I don't know. I don't know if they call that betting, but it could be seen as such.
Yeah.
Prop 28.
$25 super chat pyramid. What is it?
Yeah. Prop 28, require funding for K through 12 art and music education. 64% said yay and 36% said no. Now, if you are a college professor and you involved in the arts and music education, this is probably in your best interest. Probably in your best interest. Prop 29, enact staffing requirements, reporting requirements, ownership disclosure, and closing requirements for chronic dialysis clinics. 32% said no, 68% said, 32% said yes, and 68% said no. With that taken into consideration, there have been a few manosphere guys who have been on dialysis in here. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know everybody's, private medical history, but a lot of folks been getting torn out the frame in the last year or so. I would probably, say that could go both ways. It could be a black male issue. It could not be a black male concern. Prop 30, create a 1.75 percentage tax on personal income above $2 million and allocate revenue for zero emissions vehicles in wildfire programs. 42% said no, it said yes, and 58% said no. So they didn't get it. Not sure if that's a black male interest. Vote your interest, black men. I don't see your interest there. Prop 31, uphold a ban on the sales of flavored tobacco products. 63% said yes, and 37% said no. I don't know if that's really a black male interest at this point. We've looked at 3 or 4 different states, ballot initiatives, and I'm not seeing too many ballot initiatives or props that say black male interests at all. I don't see it.
Did it say anything about the gynocracy, the matriarchy of bringing women back to the table? No, I don't think so. Child support?
I don't know.
I don't think so about that either. I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm. Where are all these black men at now? there was a whole lot of them, just, day before having these AMA live streams and saying that they align themselves up with DeSantis and Kemp and all these other folks, man. I'm not seeing where they are right now. So link is in the chat. If anybody else wants to do the favor of defending their alleged concerns and interests at the ballot.
Perfect way to put it, alleged interest.
Yeah, it could only be alleged because I don't get it. I mean, there was this massive outrage a year or so ago over an elected state senator in Rhode Island who stood on top of her head at a beach for 1.5 seconds on a TikTok and said, "Vote for me." All this outrage. Oh, I can't believe she would do something like that. These same guys, right, who were outraged at her had nothing to say about, the tangerine tyrant when this guy was caught on tape saying, "I need 11,780 votes."
Yeah.
But I suspect I suspect these guys actually was trying to support that as well. Yeah, steal some votes, get them any which way you can, steal them, give them to me. Yeah, I guess they were in support of that. In fact, I believe that they were.
Yeah. Yeah, all these guys who are about, the tangerine tyrant and him grabbing women by the vajayjay. They didn't have anything to say about that. He was caught on record doing it. All this, if you really, let me just take it one step back and expand it out. All of the outrage against Black politicians in the Democratic Party are in states that none of these guys have ever visited. They don't reside in. They couldn't even point it out on a map, shameful enough as it is. All this outrage. The Southern gynocracy, right? Stacey Abrams, allegedly. Keisha Lance Bottoms, allegedly. Kamala Harris, allegedly. Tiara Mack in Rhode Island, allegedly. Karen Bass, allegedly, out in California. Maxine Waters, allegedly, right? Where are all these these guys or these protesters who had all this outrage about these people running for office and being in office? Where are they at now? Michael Steele has already laid down the gauntlet that basically there is no Republican Party at this point. He's still a part of the party, but in name and sake, but in terms of structure, there's no Republican Party. Conservatism has become more fringe, a major fringe element within the party itself, or the body politic, and there's nothing else for that, for anyone to hold on to within that side of the the proverbial fence that they have. It's a house with no structure, no walls.
Kind of like the manosphere.
Oh yeah, except the manosphere is a house of mirrors.
Yeah. House of Bravos.
House of helmets.
Place where every helmet has a home, man. Yeah, but the problem
Perfect
is
Blackness says, "I couldn't bring myself."
Okay.
Yeah, Perfect Blackness says, "I couldn't bring myself to vote for Trump, but couldn't bring myself to vote for a terrible ticket for a Black man either. Jim Crow Joe and Kamala Harris, I kept my vote local." This is interesting. Let's take this apart. Go ahead, MOT.
Oh, okay. So since you know, vote for anybody for president. I mean, are you supposed to get points for that? I don't understand it. I mean, it's either you didn't vote at all or you voted for one or the other. I don't. So you got to vote for everybody. You know, you can't.
I think he just did.
No, that's cool, but it's just like.
Go ahead, MLT.
I mean, because see, when you bring yourself to vote for somebody, you have to be actually be responsible for the actual outcome. When you don't vote for anybody, that means that you don't want to be responsible for the outcomes, regardless of what happens. Hey, I mean, you know, it's your vote. You get to do whatever you want to with it, but that's the way that's looked at, man.
But let's take apart what was said though, right? He said he couldn't bring himself to vote for Trump. Completely understand.
Yeah, of course.
But they say Jim Crow Joe and Kamala Harris. Now this is the thing.
Jim Crow, like he has to explain the Jim Crow Joe type thing, because we have Jim Crow going on in Mississippi, and no one is calling Tate Reeves Jim Crow Tate, right? Nobody's calling him Jim Crow Tate. Are they? is that a thing?
No, the only Tate they're concerned about is Andrew Tate.
But we are
they're concerned about. But I don't. Go ahead and go.
We are seeing real Jim Crow actually go on. He said in Mississippi, we're actually seeing that going down. We see it. It's going down right now. I don't see any of these people addressing this. We're seeing actual Jim Crow go down
the thing
in
here,
2023.
Yeah.
But
what is the Jim Crow Joe comment? Like, what kind of juvenile like, what is that based on? Like, what type of Jim Crow legislation did Biden actually push? And is that, I mean, because I haven't heard of it.
So,
Joe. I mean, that means he's old or policy based?
So what Joe Biden has been accused of is his position in the 1960s and early 70s, and that's kind of what they're alleging, that he's a Jim Crow Joe, right? But you could say that for every other president too, except with the exception of Carter, right? You could say that for Reagan. You could say that for Nixon. You can say that for Clinton. You could say that for Bush Jr. You could say that for Bush Sr. You could say that for Trump before he even got to the presidency. Yeah, you could say that about Trump before he even got to the presidency, when he even took the position against the Central Park Five. Right? He wanted Jim Crow to be implemented just against these guys. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, well, he funded, Jesse Jackson's campaign or something like that, right? Or he gave, hotel space to, X black person, name your black person. Oh, he was out there hanging out with Diddy and them. But that doesn't, people have to understand that Jim Crow, throwing the term Jim Crow around when it's actually being implemented now, it doesn't really hold weight. Because if you look at Biden's track record today, as it stands as of March 2023, he's gotten more done in less than 4 years than Trump did in 4 years himself in his presidency. Now, some people can argue and say, oh, well, Trump had to deal with the pandemic. Yeah, but that was only from March of 2020 to November, to the election cycle. So what about 2019? What about 2018? What about 2017? He had a whole lot of time to get things done. He didn't do a whole lot. All I'm saying here is that I understand when people say they couldn't vote for Trump, but they also couldn't stomach, Kamala and Joe Biden. When you really think about it, Joe Biden has gotten a whole lot more done today than, the last two presidents, including Obama.
See,
Obama
it's your
didn't even
fault for
do all of
keeping
this
up
in
with
his
it.
first 4 years.
Yeah, no, it's your fault for keeping up with it. Your fault for noticing.
That's why I'm like, you can say that Joe Biden was a racist. No disagreements for me. But every other president was a racist too. That didn't stop anybody from voting for them. So, Perfect Blackness says, I didn't vote for Bush either. Please don't get this twisted. I'm no Republican, but I'm not a Democrat either. I've learned to vote my interest. Biden isn't my interest as a Black man. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so what is his interest?
No, fair enough. I don't want to. Yeah.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I'd be interested in understanding that too. And I don't. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, so what is his interest?
We'll wait for him to respond back.
Yeah.
Spawn, the programmer says, personally, I think Trump not doing anything was the best outcome. We did a live stream back in 2020 during the pandemic on how Trump should have handled the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
And he had all of the political power to do it. They just didn't do it.
A surefire way to get reelected.
If
he would have did that stimulus in August, no doubt that dude would be president right now. But Mitch McConnell talked him into not doing it. I don't understand why he talked him into not doing it. It's crazy.
Well, he wasn't really set.
Yeah, well, not. Go ahead.
He just wasn't really set to lead in this situation.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Yes, I mean the office of the pandemics and all that was set up before, so his administration or the next administration could come in, and in case a situation like this came about, you kind of had a playbook for it. Remember, they cut that out, destroyed it, said let's cut everything else out that Obama did, and and then Trump said, hey, I didn't do that. It was my people who did it. Well, you're the president, so of course, you're gonna have to take the heat for it. But during that period, they weren't prepared to handle that issue. They were not prepared to lead on that. And Mitch McConnell came in, and he wasn't prepared to lead on that as well. So you kind of had the blind lead the blind here, and there it is. There it is. There it is. Well, I don't know what to say. Go ahead.
No. I'm just saying that we did a live stream back then that if Trump would have done X, Y, and Z, he would still be president today.
Yeah.
One thing we talked about back then was he should have leveraged every single football, basketball, and baseball stadium for testing of COVID-19. And he should have leveraged the infrastructure in those places for sick, people who were sick during the pandemic, because the ERs were overrun with patients. We saw that in New York, where they had to pull out freezer trucks and stuff like that, reefers and stuff like that to store bodies, because the morgue couldn't handle it, and they were, the hospitals were overrun, and nurses were overworked, and doctors were overworked, understaffed. Every baseball stadium, every football stadium, every major stadium in this country, from a sports and athletic standpoint, is subsidized by every state. The idea that you could not do it is BS. Any football stadium that has been built in the last 10 to 12 years has a LEED certification, LEED certification. Most of your stadiums are gold or platinum LEED certifications, meaning that these are self-sustaining pieces of infrastructure, the best of the best. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Georgia, one of the best stadiums in the industry right now, in the market right now. Didn't even bother with it. Okay, these things are free floating institutions. They can sustain themselves. They have their own plumbing. They have their own sanitation systems. They have their own electricity. They are free floating pieces of infrastructure that can hold 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people. You mean to tell me that there was nobody in the White House that said we should probably leverage? There's 30 plus football teams. What are you talking about? There's 30 plus basketball teams. There's
that was part of the whole response with the Office of Pandemics. All of that was laid out in Obama's plan. All that was laid out. That was all laid out. That was all laid out. That wasn't anything that what you're talking about and what you're breaking down is right on the money. And that was a plan that was already laid out, but these guys shelved that. That wasn't anything that they were going to do. And you saw the response after. And then the misinformation, the craziness that's going on, and why you had 1 million deaths, and you got people walking around here saying, that didn't happen. Those are true, not numbers. That's not what's going on. You see what happened. But that's, had they responded properly and had that response gone well, as much as I would have had to hold my nose going to the polls, the presidents are to be elected or not elected based on crisis. Had he handled that crisis properly, I would have had to have voted for him. I hate, regardless of how you want to say it, that's what I would have done. If he had had a good response to that to COVID, I'd have voted for him. As much as I would have held my nose, I would have done it, because that's why you get elected. Presidents get elected to deal at times with major crisis, and when you handle that correctly, you've done your job. It is what it is.
Instead, they took the National Guard to start doing, COVID testing. It's just like, why are we wasting military resources on this? Like, that's not the proper way of going about it. I mean, the military has better things to do than to be swapping people's noses and stuff like that. I mean, these are jobs that could have been easily trained within, 2, 3, 4 weeks at any American Red Cross. Any Peace Corps location could have trained these people. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It just seemed like, this guy had no idea how to govern. But that's kind of a reflection of the Republican Party. They can't govern. When they're in power, they can't govern.
They can win elections.
And so, yeah, they can win elections off of the culture war, but once they get into office, they can't govern. And so I could understand why, some people will say, well, I couldn't vote for Trump, but you have to understand that Trump made it easy for Dems to take the mantle, because they didn't do anything. Even when, Biden got in, the administration said we were looking for COVID paperwork, a strategy, a playbook, and they said there was nothing there. I mean, we know that they kept documents in Mar-a-Lago, but that's a different story. I'm just saying that people who say that, they couldn't see themselves voting for Jim Crow, I didn't for Joe Biden. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. But the thing here is, it wasn't because I didn't like him, but because I was, willing to support the Green Party at the time. What's happening in the manosphere, I think, is that people are holding Joe Biden to rumors of what he may or may have not done. They'll say the 94 crime bill, but most of those, most of that bill has largely been, overturned in most states. At least most Democratic states has been overturned. So those people have either gotten out of jail, been properly compensated. I'm not seeing, and most of that bill was supported by a lot of Black pastors and Christians and conservatives. It's really where it came down to.
Hey, how you doing, brothers? Can you hear me?
What's going on, Jay Charles?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, sir.
Wasn't a crime bill bipartisanship legislation? Wasn't that bipartisanship on that? It was on both sides, right? So, I know he gets a lot of flack for it, but at that time period, it was a crisis, crime and whatnot. So, wasn't it on both sides on that bill?
Yes. Yes, there was a lot of support on both sides. You still had just enough Republicans to support it. Keep in mind that Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House at the time. And these guys wanted more. They thought the bill was actually weak. They wanted more. And so, and to be honest with you, Newt Gingrich really, Newt Gingrich wanted, Newt Gingrich is the reason why you even have this sort of politic right now within the Republican Party, to be quite honest. He's one of the spearheads behind this sort of scorched earth sort of Republican politic.
Understood. Because I'm listening and
I just think in the two-party. Yeah, I just think in the two-party system, you have to choose either side. I don't care which side you choose, just choose the side. Go ahead, Jay Charles.
Of course, I agree with you saying on that too, but I think the biggest problem is that a lot of people don't know their history. Because even me at one point, I thought I knew the history, but after I did some thorough research with the help of you brothers and listen to some particular scholars, so just looking at the history, I think people are rooting for a certain side that really working against their interests, right? So they don't know. I think they just want a leader. They want somebody who can make them feel good, right? I think majority of these guys in the space. So it's all about feel-good politics instead of just about progressive politics. So I think that's the biggest issue, right? Because people are fighting over certain issues, but really they should be looking at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has been working against Black man's interests for over like 50 years, right? Well, not over 50 years, longer than that, but primarily after the Civil Rights Bill, they've been putting things in place that's been working against your interests. So a lot of people don't discuss that, right? So what are your thoughts now as far as what is a solution? Go ahead, hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh yeah, so what are your thoughts?
I can
So
hear
what are
you.
your thoughts? Yeah, what's your thoughts on this Supreme Court? Because right now they're stripping rights away. So I propose court expansion, but a lot of people don't even look at current issues that certain current cases that they're working on and they're discussing. So in terms of that, do you think the Supreme Court should be expanded, or do you think it's just or do you think there's nothing we can really do, because the Supreme Court is the ones that are really working against our interests, because they're trying to bring back.
Well,
Go ahead.
Here's the deal. Trump elected, I think over 90% of his judges that he selected were white conservative men. Okay. When you don't vote, that's the outcome. They get to do things like that. They get to run the table on you. And so presidents have a lot of sway in what kind of judges get appointed and get selected. The judges that Trump appointed in his tenure, they're going to be around here for the next 30 years. So, if you're in your 40s now, they'll be here until your retirement for all intents and purposes, unless they leave on their own. But Black men in this space don't seem to care about that. So when you hear them talk about child support or these other, government overreach, there's your government overreach right there. Go ahead, Emily.
No, it's just that at this point, there needs to be a political re-education, because everybody want to start off at the top, and everybody just want to be there for the ticker tape parade, but nobody wants to put in the hard work election after election to even understand how the system works overall. And it pretty much hurts people when they don't want to understand the actual process. So they kind of leave it up to us, and they do whatever they want to. And then all these conservatives get in the office, and all of a sudden nobody's concerned about what the government does. Until the Dems hold the House, and then like all of a sudden, the reparation crew come out of nowhere and all this other stuff. Ain't nobody talking about any of this stuff right now. They talked about during the first 2 years of Biden. Now that stuff's around. Now those people are around.
No. And that's so Jay Charles, that's the issue, that the expanding of the court, it doesn't matter. If you're not going to vote, then it doesn't even matter, right? Because the only way you're going to get these judges, a lot of these judges are on the ballot in a lot of these places at the state level, and then at the federal level, your president has a lot of sway in that too. And so when you hear guys say that, well, I'm not going to come out and vote, I'm not going to do anything, well, that's the outcome, that they get to appoint all the conservative judges that take away all of your freedoms from you. Now, with the exception of, carrying firearms, I think that's the only area that you can find some wiggle room and say, okay, this does make a lot of sense. But at the same time, that on the other issues, that's just an exception. That's just one area. But all these other areas, these black men are not concerned about that. They only look at the cult of personality and they move from there. That's it.
Yeah,
Let me get to this
politics.
comment right here in the chat room from Pro. Yeah, let me get to this comment right here from the chat room from Pro Woman. Thoughts on gender issues, anyone? Trans men allowed in women's bathrooms, sports, etc. Gender altering surgery and hormones for minors and other related issues. It's not on the ballot. That's my response to that. If it's not on the ballot, I don't see how that can be.
But, fear mongering and culture warring over
4 different
bathroom
ballots.
issues is ridiculous. Yeah, it's not a ballot.
It's my thing here is this. If the issue's not on the ballot and it can't be voted on, it's not an issue at this point. I think black men are lifting up, rocks and other sort of objects, looking for things that don't really exist within the body politic. People see what DeSantis is doing as, oh, well, he's governing. Go ahead.
This is where we at, because nobody really understands the process and they're not trying to learn. So they want to just come in and off the top rope with these issues that really don't mean anything. We went through this bathroom bill shit, when Obama was in office. How much time do you spend in a public bathroom where it's actually an issue? It's not an issue.
Most of your recent construction of buildings already have genderless bathrooms at this point, or unisex bathrooms, what they call unisex bathrooms. So it's not even an issue. What's going on, Perfect Blackness?
I'll tell you what, as soon as they started making them bathrooms equal, them truck stop bathrooms got cleaner than you can imagine. The moment they started seeing the women being in there, everything got cleaner, man, across the board. Everything got cleaner. So I don't really care about it. So it's just ridiculous things. Not even ballot work.
What's going on, Perfect Blackness?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody can hear me. All right, I'm not going to be up long, but I did feel compelled to come up and at least defend my position at least a little bit. What's going on, MOT and the Gone?
What's going on? Man?
Yeah, look, I've been a registered voter since I was 18. I just turned 48 in January. I've been voting Democrat pretty much my entire life, right? And the older I got, now I'm not a political savant or anything like that, but I have paid. The older I've gotten, the more and more attention to politics that I've paid that I've been paying to, in particular, especially local, right? Because I have voted for people that are a little bit more on the conservative side, but still have some progressive leanings. Like I voted for Willie Wilson here in Chicago because I just could not vote for what's her facing. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, Lori Lightfoot.
Right. I'm sorry. I don't know if you guys, support it because she's on the liberal side, but she was no friend of the South Side. She just wasn't. I'm sorry that she was. She was mostly a North Sider. But
I don't have a dog in that fight. Yeah, I don't have a dog in that fight.
Me neither. Yeah, I have a question about the person who did win the runoff. What do you think of that? Because I haven't heard any analysis from anybody in the manosphere who lives in Chicago. We know she lost, but who's the person that she lost to? Do you know anything about that candidate at all?
Yeah, he ran the last mayor, actually a couple mayoral races. Both of the candidates for the runoff, they are both CPS. They are both CPS people. One, the white guy who I think is going to win because he got like 30% of the vote, but it's still not known if his opponent is going to get, if he's going to inherit Lori Lightfoot's vote. So that still remains to be seen. But they're both CPS, and I'm not really a fan of either one. I did a little research on both. I'm not a fan of either one. So I'm struggling on that one because it's only two, and I will be voting in that one because that is local, and I mean your local politics affects you most directly. So that's why I pretty much, when it comes to local politics, I am really I do my best to vote in those. Now the nationals, is in particular the presidency. Again, as older I've gotten, I've become more attuned to more into male interests, Black male interests in particular. I've been coaching and mentoring, for 14 years, and I see firsthand how Black males are not attended to, especially by the Democrat Party. In particular, by the Democrat. I don't think the conservatives. I really don't expect them to do too much. I am open. I'll listen to what they have to say, and if their platform if I feel the platform is going to be beneficial to Black men, then I will have no problem giving them my vote. I'm a registered independent. I don't know if how some of you guys feel about that, but personally, I don't like the stance, especially coming from the left, that when people like myself say, I'll vote my interests as opposed to just voting for one of the parties, because Black people have been voting for been voting for the left for how many decades now? Definitely before I was born, been voting for the left and it really hasn't, at least none that I've seen in my lifetime, has been any different. It doesn't, whichever president is in office, our condition really hasn't changed. And if our condition is really not going to change, no matter who's in office, we might as well vote. That's my reasoning. Now, like I said, I'm not a political savant. I can't regurgitate all of the political history on one way or another. But that's just what I see.
But when you say things like that, then you have to cite the things that the Republican side have done, and you just can't say, well, they haven't done anything.
I didn't say that the Republicans have done anything for Black folks. I've not once said the Republicans have done anything. I said that I will listen. Just like I've been listening to the Democrats for pretty much all of my voting life. Yeah, I will listen to them.
Okay.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I got a question. Do you think a political party is interested in you if they're trying to take the history about you out of school books?
I don't agree with that either. I definitely don't agree with that. And I wouldn't give my vote to a candidate, because not all candidates on the right actually think that. And I'm not going to assume that they do. I will listen to what that individual person has to say. Now, do I believe that? No, I don't. I would never give my vote to any candidate who seeks to erase us out of the damn history books.
There's a party that's synonymous with that.
I know that there are people within that party who is synonymous with that, but I also know, because I've spoken to a few, who isn't down with that, who don't agree with that.
Okay, could you name me a Democrat who actually wants to take what they understand the CRT out of actual school?
I can't name one, but I never said that one was. I don't. I don't
It's a party
agree.
issue.
Was that?
It's a party issue. It's pretty much one-sided. Who believes
It
in
is a party issue when you're talking about national politics. Yeah, it is a part. It is a single party issue. But when you're talking about local policies, this stuff gets a little. It gets a bit fluid. But yeah, on a national party, yeah.
Yeah, but what do you think the school board is? The school board is definitely local.
I'm not going to disagree. Don't get me, like I say, don't get it wrong. I'm not a Republican, and I'm not going to vote for any party that's not going to be beneficial for Black men, and any party, any person that's going to do that's what they stand for. I'm not giving them my vote. But I'm also not. I'm equally. But when there are other things that I know that the Democrat Party, especially the National Party, stand for, that equally isn't beneficial for Black men, and Black families, for that matter.
Wait. Let's roll this back. Let Jay Charles, your mic is breaking up a whole lot. Let's take this back one step. Perfect Blackness.
Mm-hmm.
What are the policies that are being proposed by the Democrats that are against Black men's best interests?
Well, I can tell you, at least from what I've seen, they have a lot of policies that are gender fluid, that always is going to be more feminist, that benefits feminists. They have especially here locally. I don't know about anywhere else. We're here locally, and I do know that the National Party, the National Democrat Party, supports these policies as well. These, because somebody else mentioned it in the chat. These genderless bathrooms, and one of the things that I hate here is that they letting these kids actually choose their own pronouns and all that other type of stuff, and they making people stick to it, and actually trying to kick you out of schools if you don't succumb. I don't agree with that, and that's the Republican Party. I mean, that's the Democrat Party doing that, local and national, doing that crap. That is anti-family, and if it's anti-family, it can't be pro-male.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand where's the policy aspect to it though, because I don't see any policies. I mean, if you can know a bill, an HR bill or a Senate bill, I don't follow Chicago's politics or Illinois politics enough to know what.
Now, and that's where me being a political savant will come in at, because I can't regurgitate that type of stuff. I can only tell you what because I watch political news as well, and I see these agendas being spoken about, and how one side don't like it and the other side loves it. And I know here in Chicago, that type of stuff is in play here. It is in play here. There's his, she, and all that mess. Yes, and they're allowing these children to say that they identify as women or as girls, that type of shit in elementary schools. My daughter's just 11 years old. She tells me about how they got these bathrooms where boys can go into it if they identify as girls. There isn't a Republican running anything anywhere close to Chicago. That's all Democrat policies there. And now,
so I don't know.
The city is poised to elect a mayor that was the CEO of Chicago Public Schools, and the other one who was endorsed by the teachers union. And he has nothing but gender fluidity all throughout his campaign. So yeah, when I hear that, when you say, do I know what the actual law is and policy is? No, I can't point to. I can only point to the schools actually doing it, and they getting all of this. They're getting this coming down straight from the local government. That's what I do know. And I see the National Party regurgitating this same crap, on the nightly news and everything else. That's what I do say. Now, can I point to anything? No, I can't. And that's where you guys would have me at. But I can only go by what I see and what I'm hearing. And because we're just not just making this stuff up. We just didn't pull it out of our ass. It just didn't come right out of the sky, and we're just making it up. We're seeing this. We're seeing people.
That's why it's better, like the other side of seeing it and hearing it, and actually telling us what policy is actually doing it. So that way we can actually operate to be able to change it. But if you can't know what the policy is that allows this stuff to happen, how does it change? How does it change? You're seeing the outcomes of it, but you don't know the actual what made it cause in the first place. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like we don't have those problems in Colorado. We just don't.
Okay. Well, I can't speak to Colorado. I don't know anything about Colorado. But
yeah,
I will tell you this. I will say this, MOT, and respectfully, it's that type of I don't. For me, that would be dismissive language that has caused people like Mayor Lori Lightfoot to lose her election. And I would predict,
you're correct,
whichever one of these candidates win, they're not
that's
probably not going to get reelected because they have that same language. You're basically saying, okay, you have to point out the policy, but we can actually see what you guys are doing in our schools.
You guys, I'm like, here's the thing.
But see, who is it? You guys though? I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're talking about this type of policy, this here again, we're talking about Chicago. No conservative person that sits in the city council came up with that. That's all through CPS and the feminists, who is littered all through the Chicago council, including the mayor's office herself. That's them. And from what I understand, in other municipalities where this type of behavior is going on in the school systems, it's the same way. Now, do you expect? Look, I work for a living. I don't have the time really to dig off into the political minutiae to find out what bill, who wrote it, who thought it up, and all. I don't. So that you guys would have me at a major disadvantage.
Well, we all work. So
I did. That's not what I'm implying. That's not what I'm implying to go on. The only thing I'm saying is that.
Well, I'm looking Perfect Blackness. When I'm looking on the state of Illinois website, I'm not seeing any policies proposed for Chicago that allows this to take place. I'm not seeing anything on there. It's just a quick search. I mean, I could be off here, but
I know the mayor
anything proposed by any elect.
Okay, and that's fair. That's fair. But I do know that the mayor. This is something that the mayor got on TV and spoke very proudly about supporting. I do know that.
Well, I mean, speaking about it and enacting an actual House resolution or state or Senate resolution or an executive policy, I don't see it. And so when you say that, you know, that this is happening, I'm not doubting that it's not happening. I'm not doubting that it is happening. I'm just saying, from a policy perspective, I don't see anybody, because policy requires bipartisan support. You don't just shove things through the door like that. It just doesn't work that way. And so I'm not seeing the bipartisan support in the state of Illinois for these policies.
Okay. Do you know who runs the school system here? The Chicago Public Schools? Is that a private thing, or is that ran by ran by the mayor?
I have no idea.
Exactly. So
I have no idea. That's what I'm asking.
And what they do,
who is proposing the policies?
What they do, and see, this is one of the things that makes it hard to even find out how policies like this, as you say, was it the school that was it CPS that derived this, or was it the mayor? Because what they do, they ping pong responsibility off of both of them. They do it, and whenever they have these councils at the schools and all of that, nobody seems to know anything. But then when we start espousing against it, we get exactly what you guys say. Well, where's the policy? Where point to the law where we can see it happening. And we know this. We know the school systems don't do anything without the express permission of local politics. They don't move like that without local politics. See, these are games. These are games. I don't know about Colorado or anywhere else. I know here in Chicago, these ping pong games that they play. And that's why a lot of people's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not gonna. If you guys can't be straight with us about what we support and what we don't support, because I can tell you, most parents don't support it. They do not support it, but because they can't espouse exactly what you guys are saying, they don't do anything. They can't say anything. Oh, they go to these councils, but like myself, I got kicked out of one. So the only people that are there, that are people that are just going to be docile towards it, or people who are going to agree with it. And so you're only left with getting rid of the mayor. And so now when the mayor is being kicked out, not even the chief of police said he's going to step down. And from what I understand, it's going to be some other domino that's going to fall, depending on whichever one of these two guys win the mayorship. Because some people in the teachers union don't like the top candidate. See,
no, that's fine. I'm not debating that. I'm not debating.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I'm not debating or deliberating on
played upon regular people.
No, there's a delay between us by 1 to 2 seconds, so I just want to make sure that you understand that.
Yeah, I figured that's the reason.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that what's happening in Chicago isn't happening, or what you allege isn't happening. What I'm saying here is when that is happening, it's a quote unquote Democrat issue, right? When it's these other people on the other side, taking Black history out of the books and taking banning books and banning authors, banning Black men from teaching certain things. There's quite a few Black men that have been tossed out of office themselves, tossed out of school boards themselves. But no one's talking about that. And so when we talk about Black male interests, where on the ballot are Black men's interests? We just covered 4 states. We covered California, we covered Texas, we covered Ohio. We covered we covered a couple of states, and I'm not seeing any of these concerns on the ballot.
Black men, and you're right, Black men interest is nowhere on the ballot. But I still look for what are their platforms and see how those platforms are going to affect Black men. Which is a reason.
Which platforms?
Depending on whoever the candidate is. How is it going to affect Black men?
Let's talk about Joe Biden.
What was about Joe Biden?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't.
No, I'm saying let's talk about Joe Biden. I'm saying let's talk about Joe Biden for a second.
Okay.
Joe Biden has appointed more Black men in his tenure today than Trump has, but people still will say that Joe Biden is not. They couldn't see themselves voting for Joe Biden, or they couldn't see themselves voting for Trump. But when you really think about it, it's a two-party system. So either you're going to vote for one of the two candidates, or you're not. And so when you don't vote for either candidate, then the outcome is what you're referring to, right? Trump appointed a lot of judges that are going to screw Black men over, like they're doing in Mississippi right now. But that doesn't seem to stop, brothers from voting on that side, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of brothers in the space who claim that they're down with those folks over there, and they go over there and they say, well, I'm just going to vote my interest. Well, what interests are over there? Because we cover all these ballots. I mean, we've covered dozens of ballots, and we're not seeing any of these sort of concerns on the ballot.
Okay, now.
And the platform, hold on one second. The platform is undoubtedly Anglo-Saxon, influenced. I mean, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia say we need to create an Anglo-Saxon party, and there's a lot of brothers in here saying, yeah, I vote on that side, but that doesn't seem to be on the ballot though. That's what I'm saying. Like the things that you can vote on from a Democratic standpoint with a small d that could actually influence change, Black men don't seem to be concerned about that.
Okay, now in terms of the space, I've argued where I've debated with a lot of guys within the space, and I'm not going to say that you're wrong on that, because in that you will be right. And I have said, almost quote, that there are, and I love the Black manosphere. I've written an article defending the Black manosphere, but there are too many people. There are too many men within the space. Their conservatism blinds them to the humanity of the very men that they say that they defend. And for me, that bothers me. Your conservatism is more important than defending Black men. Your conservatism led you to say that George Floyd died of fentanyl overdose, that type of stuff. And I don't jive with that, and I don't defend that. I don't. And I went on the other panels and I said that same thing. So I'm not one of these ultra conservative guys who said, who voted for Trump, because I couldn't do it. A lot of guys did. Probably most guys in this space do. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't vote for Joe Biden. I can't vote for a man whose damn hero and mentor was a card-carrying Klansman. I can't do it. There isn't enough deodorant and soap and bleach that can bleach that away. And as far as Joe Biden appointing more black men than Trump or whoever or any other person, I'm not going to say that you're wrong, because I don't know that. I will say this: what I see him promoting on the news, what I see him being promoting on who he's going to put on the bench, he explicitly says black women, and I see him doing just that. And
so you don't want black women being on the bench?
That's not what I said. I didn't say that at all.
Oh, what did you say? Just repeat what you said.
I said I don't see him. Now, again, I'm not denying that he has put black men on the bench. That's not what I see. I see him promoting and doing and putting black women on the bench, just like he said. He said he would put a black woman on the bench. He did just that.
Okay, so now let's stop right here. What do you have against with black women being on the bench?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you just said it again. So let's stop the conversation right here. What do you have against black women being on the bench? What do you have against it?
I don't have anything against black women being on the bench per se. I don't. But here's a man, he is choosing black women at least on TV, from what we see, from what I see, he is choosing black women over black men.
So you want him to focus on black men more?
No, I didn't say that either. But are you seriously, or do you mean to imply that during the run-up, during his whole campaign, he made appointing black women on a particular point on his platform? To
be on the Supreme Court, yes, he did say that. He did say that.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to. And not only that, I know I've heard people several times say how many black women he's appointed to the federal bench.
So you want there to be more black men on the bench? That's what you want from Joe Biden?
I'm not. Okay.
It's a simple yes. If you want more black men on the bench, just say that.
See, you're what you're trying to do is saying, because I'm pointing out what he said. You're taking that to say, well, you must want more black men. That's not what that does not equate that. But what he is expressing, saying, I want to put more black women on the bench, as if to say, and I know he didn't say this, as if to say that there's not enough, that there's enough black men that's on the bench.
I mean, but he said that he was going to put a black.
Well, let me stop you. Let me stop you. Let me stop you there, Perfect Blackness. What he was saying was he's going to keep his campaign promises from what he made before. Now, the idea here is no one's put as many black women on the bench than he has. So what he's doing is he's elevating the bar for the next administration that comes after him. They won't be able to reach it. And in order to reach it, they would have to exceed everything that he's doing. So that's really all he's doing. It has nothing to do with black men. Realistically, it has nothing to do with them. Well, I mean, in fact, the head of the EPA is a black man. There's several black men in his cabinet right now. I mean, Warnock is one of the most premier black men in the Senate. And then you take from a congressional standpoint, you know, there's probably a dozen or so black men within the in Congress. So
I do not.
I'm not sure.
I don't take any the congressional. I know you didn't say this, you didn't say this term, but I don't take the Congressional Black Caucus, I don't take them serious. I just don't.
Why not?
Yeah. Who do you want to replace them with?
Why not?
I didn't say I wanted to replace anybody. I just said I don't take them serious. They don't, in my opinion, in my opinion, they don't, in my opinion, they don't speak for the black community. They don't. I don't see, no, I don't.
Whoa.
Do you know they put out a report every year?
Let me pull up the
each year?
They put out what report?
They put out a report on the things that they pass every single year. Did you know that they were doing that?
Yeah, but I also know that the black community still hasn't gotten any better with them in office. Hell, a lot of them don't even vote the interests of black people.
Okay. So again, who's better than the Congressional Black Caucus to you? If the Congressional Black Caucus isn't good enough, who's better than them to you?
See, that's the game. No, I'm not going to say.
It's not a game. Can
I answer the question?
Yes.
Because this is the game that a lot of people on the left. It's a shaming game.
It's not a shaming game. It's a direct
let me get it up. This is my opinion. I'm not saying that you are absolutely wrong, and I'm not saying that. But this is my opinion, based on my years of voting, and I have a right as a voter, someone who has been voting for the left all of my adult life, except up until the last 7 or 8 years. That doesn't mean that I've been voting Republican, because I haven't. I've been voting more Democratic or more center. But my problem is that whenever people like myself express, okay, you know what? No, after all of these decades, our community has not gotten better, even when we are in municipalities like Chicago that is black ran and that are people that are on the left. The communities hadn't gotten any better. Matter of fact, we've gotten a lot of gentrification, and we've gotten a lot of LGBT stuff in the schools, where they're encouraging our children to have sexual identity crises. This is what we've gotten. And when people like myself question that, when we look at our political leadership, both locally and the national, we get, well, what would you want in this place?
Yes.
See, and that right there, as opposed to looking at the performance of the individuals whom we have put into office, you turn right around and look at the people who are voting and say, well, what do you want? That's basically putting the gun to our head, say either vote for this or that.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. And
no, we don't.
Here's the other thing.
We don't. Well, we can just keep our vote local, because if our conditions are not going to change within the community, we might as well we would get better bang for our buck by voting, by putting our vote to somewhere where it's going to directly affect us.
Okay, so if you're not going to vote for the Democratic Party, then you have to tell me who you are going to vote for.
That depends on who's running.
What you just said.
It depends on who's running. If who's running, I feel is not going to have my interests or my people's interests, and especially black males, I'm not going to give you my vote. I'm just not.
Okay.
I will keep it local, unapologetically. I will keep it local. Right. And unless and until the national, see, it's not my responsibility to get you, not you personally, to get you as the voted in leadership. It is not my job, because you're coming to me asking me for my vote, and now you're going to expect that vote every year. So this is one of the reasons why Lori Lightfoot got her ass voted out of office. That position MOT is one of the principal reasons why Lori Lightfoot lost her election.
I don't care about her losing her election.
But no, she is a microcosm. Lori Lightfoot is a microcosm of the party at large. She is a microcosm of it. Because when
Is
it
it
comes
really?
to, when it comes to the black community is told what MOT just said. Well, what else you got? Everybody else.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Everybody else, the candidates start
no
right. They get their pen and pad out, and they start writing down what their demands are, and they go about the business. They go about the business of affecting those demands. When it comes to the black community, you ain't got nobody else to vote for anyway.
Who has done that? Who has done that? Wrote down a list of demands and just walked in. Where have you seen that done?
Okay, I think you know.
And it worked.
I think you know what I was talking about. I think you know what I was meaning.
No, it's just that you want to write down a list of demands.
Come on, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there.
I know. I'm asking
exactly
you for
what I was saying
you
when I made that analogy. You know, I was making an analogy, man.
Sir, okay. So I'm asking for specific examples of how your plan is going to work.
I didn't say I had a plan, T. I didn't say I had a plan. I didn't even say that it's going to work. I said when it comes to me, if I see candidates up there and I look at their platform and I say, you know what, this not going to benefit the black community. It ain't going to benefit black males, and it definitely ain't going to benefit the black family. I'll just keep my vote local.
So you mean not
because I know the president and I know the senator have nothing to do with my trash being picked up. They have nothing to do with red light cameras being put all into the city. They have nothing to do with that. So I would keep my vote where I know it will have the most effect, as opposed to voting for, as you guys might say, voting for the lesser of evils. Who was that that said, I don't vote for evil at all? And it's time out for black folks stop voting for the lesser of two evils when your conditions are not going to change. That has been proven. I'm damn near 50. I'm going on 50 years old, and I'm not seeing the improvement for voting for the lesser of two evils.
Here's the thing. I'm from Mississippi. Do you think anything has improved over the last 200 years? No, it hasn't.
I know it hasn't changed. I know it hasn't changed in the last 60 years. I know that.
But guess what? People still go out and they participate anyway. You still have to pick the lesser of two evils, no matter what's going on. You're still going to have to participate in the process all the way around fully. And if you do not fully, it's not going to work. You can't take hostages. You don't have the leverage to take hostages.
Well, when you say that it's not going to work, MOT, you have to show me where it has worked for the black community voting for the lesser two evils.
I don't care about the black community.
I care for the black community. I'm talking about the black community.
How do you care about the black community when they don't show up to vote? When they don't take the productivity piece seriously? When they sit around and want to talk about relationships all day? You mean you want to save those people? You can't save those people. It doesn't matter how much you care.
I didn't say anything about saving anybody.
Okay, helping them.
I'm talking about
what?
I'm talking about the constituency group that I am a part of, and the very people that you're criticizing, they're part of that too.
Listen, we can't talk about communities unless they have their household correct and right. Most of these people don't even know what they're doing.
You said it like every other constituency's got their house and orders correct.
They're not out here complaining about issues like we are.
It may not be okay, but theirs is fucked up too. The only difference is they have elected officials who, they will sit down with their pen and paper out, writing down their demands. And when they get voted into office, they go about the business of doing whatever they can, and they're going to be seen doing it, trying to do exactly what was on that paper.
Well,
he kind of brings up Lori Lightfoot and why he lost and LGBT stuff. That didn't seem to really, I'm starting to listen closely. That didn't seem to really be the issue as to why she lost. People feel as though that, there were issues that they wanted to have dealt with respect to crime and, kind of building up the community a bit more.
That wasn't the main issue, but crime was an issue. The crime was an issue for the North Siders. That was not the issue for the South Side.
Let me finish, my man. Let me finish, and then you got it. I'm not cutting you off. I'm not trying to, talk over you. It seemed as though that the crime was what really had a big effect on how people really saw things kind of move in that community. They wanted to see that, improve. And then you have what's his name, Brandon Johnson, pretty much, who kind of came out on top. You know, he seemed to have a stronger appeal. It seemed to be on that angle. It seemed to be that was a big piece of what was kind of going on, and it seemed like the northern and the northwestern side of the city kind of played very heavily in pulling that out. That's what it seems to have been big in that race. When you talk about the LGBT and gays and all that, I think people were trying to run that down to say something on the masculinity piece and all that thing. I mean, maybe you guys are pushing, but that wasn't what people were voting on. It doesn't seem that was truly the case even at all. It seemed as though that it came really down to more issues of education with the teachers union, and it seemed as though it all came down to crime. You know, some of those basic pieces. You know, that if you want to talk about blacks being conservative with respect to that, education and crime, that seems to be what played a big role. It would play a pretty heavy role in that. I don't think the LGBT and stuff like that, all that that a lot of these other guys are saying was really the major factor there.
Can I answer that?
It doesn't.
I can answer that
from how the votes came down. But go ahead.
Okay. So when you mentioned the crime, yes, the crime was the crime issue. That was something that a lot of the national news carried. Even some of the local news also carried. But when you really started to really knuckle down, because they actually did this too, and I was actually surprised that they did this on the late night news too, because it kind of made me upset. Some of the biggest things that really pissed Black voters off, especially on the South and West side, was how much she basically ignored the Black community. Almost basically told the Black community, you need to go vote, and that's it. A lot of Black folks didn't like how she handled the sanctuary city deal, because they were putting busloads of people from the south of the border, and they were basically taking schools that they had closed in protest, schools that Lori Lightfoot herself closed. Her and the previous mayor closed that a lot of people in the Black community, including the man that I voted for, Willie Wilson. He wanted to open up these schools and turn them into trade schools. He wanted to bring the trade schools back. In particular, he wanted to use the schools that were being closed, that have been closed. She took a lot of these schools and put the illegals in by the busloads, and it was to the point to where they were there. It was.
So wait 1 second. Perfect Blackness. So you realize that it was Texas governor.
Yes, I know that. Yeah, I know that. But Lori Lightfoot,
but Illinois and Chicago proper does have human rights legislation in place that they have to find these people some form of shelter if they show up.
Well, let me finish, because I'm getting to that. When she was opening up these schools and put these immigrants in where they still are, she primarily put them on the south and west sides in communities that were not in Black communities, and these are in communities that are targeted for gentrification. Okay, and these were being heavily protested because a lot of people ask, why are you putting them in the Black communities when you just put them in the Hispanic community? Why are you putting them in? They can't even speak the language, and it's causing all kinds of problems, hellacious problems. Okay, now she completely ignored the Black community, and it turned a lot of people off. See, that's not being put into the national news. They're only saying nationally, and even some parts here locally, they're trying to play up the crime thing, but that's more of a north side thing, as if no crime happens in the downtown and south side, south and west side. Because in all the communities here in Chicago, 90-something%, I think it's 90-something% of the crimes happen in only 6 neighborhoods. Only 6. And most of those 6 are on the south and west side. But every time something happens, even though it's in an area where the crime rate is generally not that low, the news have been really pushing that up. And that also has been helped by, you guessed it, Lori Lightfoot. And that right there, and a lot of people that are local who are aldermen and all of that, because the aldermen didn't even know that Lori Lightfoot was going to do that. Never even informed her. And they did not like that. They were part of the protest. So there are a lot of reasons that's not being televised and not being put in the news why Lori Lightfoot lost that race. And then after she lost, it was her unwillingness to take any type of responsibility in how she handled the black vote.
Well,
so when you say crime, anybody that want to say crime, I would say that would, and I got to get off her in a minute because my wife got to go to bed with my son. I would say that anyone that's saying crime, they're only looking at what the national media is saying, and they might be going to a couple more people, but then you're not in the area to really dig down to see what's actually going on, boots on the ground. Lori Lightfoot lost the black community a long time ago.
And it seemed like the teachers' unions and so forth, she wasn't really jamming on that too well. I mean, when you look at why people lose, you have a lot of ground support with some of the institutions that are there, the teachers' unions and so forth, where you have a lot of black people involved. She didn't really have that tied up. She had a lot of
and speaking of crime, I don't mean to interrupt you, Nagon, but speaking of crime,
and the labor unions,
right, and the labor unions and all that. But speaking of crimes, Lori Lightfoot,
go ahead.
He had tens of billions of dollars allocated for the Chicago Police Department, and that's more than previous mayors. So she was putting in money. She had a messaging problem, and she had a problem with the black community. That was her problem, and it allowed Vallis to exploit that.
Yeah, well, you got Vallis, and you also had what you call it? You also had you got a Spanish guy from there too.
You're talking about Chuy Garcia. Black folks were not voting for him at all.
Yeah. You had some Latin dude in there, but
he didn't have a chance.
A lot of problems.
Chuy Garcia did not have a chance.
She had a problem organizing, but crime and those things played a big role. It just wasn't. You said LGBT all over the place. I don't know.
She had a problem from the beginning.
It didn't really come off like that.
Her whole administration, it was bad. Yeah. So look, I got to get off.
According to this, yep. Hey, thanks for coming up, Perfect Blackness, and have a good night, bro.
You too, Perfect Blackness. Hey, man, nice to talk to you, brother. Good to see you come up tonight.
Always, man, always.
All right, cool, man. Have a nice one.
All right.
Yeah, this is the Illinois Department of Human Services, and it says welcoming immigrants and refugees. Okay. Let me see if I can click on and this is coming from the government. It's not coming from Lori Lightfoot. This is coming from the government. Assistance for asylum seekers, immigrant family resource program, programs and services available for asylum seekers, child care assistance. This is coming from the state. It's not coming from Lori Lightfoot. So the questioning of, well, the way she handled, these illegal people coming from the border, no, it's not her handling this. It's the state handling this. Okay. And number two, it was sent up by conservative governors from other states like Florida and Texas. Why are we, and so I think what's happening here is there's a lot of scapegoating of certain issues onto certain candidates that and certain elected officials that really have nothing to do with other organizations like the Congressional Black Caucus. Lori Lightfoot is a mayor, and saying that, the Congressional Black Caucus really doesn't do anything. They put out a report every single Congress. 116th and the 117th Congress, there's 2 reports on their site. We covered this earlier, I think, on Sunday. Yeah. So I think the problem in spaces like this is that there's a lack of understanding of how government works. And there's a lack of understanding. Let me see right here. I just saw this. Immigration legal services. And so the Department of Homeland Security announced the designation of temporary protected status for, Venezuela for 18 months. So they have all of these systems in place, but one person gets blamed for it when in reality, these systems existed long before they were even in office. So it just seems like some people don't know how the system actually works and how it functions. And sometimes people will have this misplaced grievances about certain candidates and certain elected officials by saying like, well, it's the policies. What policies are you talking about? That's why I was asking, where were these policies? Who's doing what? Whose name is on what? I don't see any name. I didn't see any Lori Lightfoot as the mayor signing off on anything. I didn't see any of that.
No, because there wasn't any of that.
It just seems like, yeah, go ahead.
No, there wasn't any of that, and he didn't know the policies. That's why. And then when he started talking more or less about, hey, the LGBT and all of this, there, you really had, a move against her, heavily from some rather conservative, how would I say, it's institutional interests in Chicago that really did move against her. And it wasn't that, it was, police, rank and file, it was the crime piece, and they pushed all that and that played a role. But the unions, there was a big piece that went on, but you got to put some of those pieces together to really see what really happened. And that's why when I hear certain things like, oh, it was LGBT and it was, bathrooms and kids and, that's
he connected, but Nagone, he connected all of this to Black men's interests. That's how we started off the discussion.
Yeah, and it was not,
was that all of these moving pieces were of Black men's interests, but that none of these things were on the ballot. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, well, and I think MOT was kind of getting to that point where he was asking, well, okay, so how do you prevent it from happening? Well, we just won't vote. I'll just vote my interest. What's your interest? Well, I don't like same gender bathrooms. Well, I don't know if that's on the ballot or not. I don't think that you can vote one person or another. It just seems really, what I notice is that people tend to zigzag from one issue to another in order to kind of rationalize their previous point. And it makes it seem like all of these are all of these issues are connected. In reality, they're not. These are all disaggregated issues and grievances that really have no place in the body politic at all. Because it doesn't matter who you vote for. State law is still state law. For example, like right here, it says the Illinois Welcoming Center. This is from the state itself. This is from the governor's office. The Illinois Welcoming Center is a comprehensive service center for the integration of immigrants and refugees in Illinois. The Illinois Welcoming Center's innovative model eliminates systemic barriers that immigrants may have in approaching state services. IWC was launched in 2007 to model a state-operated one-stop human service center designed to help immigrants navigate state services and coordinate those state services with nonprofit community social service. And so it seems to me that the state of Illinois has their own system in place. What
Colorado do?
And it doesn't stop with just people. Yeah, and it doesn't stop with Latinos. It actually it has Asians on here. It has it's for all immigrants, and even those coming out of Israel or the Middle East for that matter. So I'm not sure, because it says right here, Arab American Family Services. What are we talking about here? These are not issues at the when you say vote your local interest, how can you vote your local interest when the state is overarching on all of this?
Yeah, but
so Lori Lightfoot put some undocumented people inside of an empty school. What else was she supposed to do? What was she supposed to do? By law, she has to accommodate these people. An empty school that's not being used. Well, I don't see how that's a grievance for you. I don't get that part. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
It's emotional. Once again, it gets to an emotional argument, which I see, and they push a piece because there's an emotional argument here. So a lot of it's not going to be based on a lot of hardcore facts. It's how people feel, and it's their emotions, and so that's what's really being really appealed to more is their emotions than what's really going on the ground. It's just how people are feeling. That's why when I started talking about the crime piece and that which people placed on her, that was a big issue. Said, oh, it was just the media, and not really the media. We started looking at what people were saying
the exit polls are not
when they were looking at the exit polls and looking at what folks were saying. That this is what was coming out. So the LGBT and the kids in school and then being taught, that was not a factor. That wasn't big at all. But that's the pieces that these guys are pushing. So you got to get past some of this emotional stuff that you were looking at. What's really going on the ground with people, and difficult to get some of that.
Yeah, the thing here is pro woman Jay in the chat says, where are Black men's or Black people's interests on any ballot, Dem or Republican? That's what we've been asking. You say your interest, well, what do you, if you vote your interest, where is it on the ballot? Because you can't say we're going to vote our interest and then it's not on the ballot. And then say, well, I just focus on the local politic. And then the local politic turns out that there's nothing there on the local politic level that really is impactful to Black men at all. How does, undocumented people sitting inside of or sleeping inside of an empty school, how is that impactful on Black men? Pro woman Jay says, what he's expressing is that there seems to be a reluctance to do things specifically for Black people. Where are the policy initiatives for Black people, specifically for Black citizens? Maybe when you show up at the ballot, when you start putting, an agenda together, that's how you get things done.
They're looking for
when women,
Black agenda.
when
it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like
Ice Cube had it, but what I'm
contract with Black America.
What I'm saying here is,
and most of it was already passed by other people.
Yeah. What I'm saying here is, when women rights were, their reproductive rights were being challenged, they put a referendum together, put it on the ballot, and then they voted their interest. That's voting your interest. It seems to me that Black people, more Black men want somebody else to do something for them without actually telling them what they want done, and then be disappointed when the thing isn't, when their needs aren't, or their perception is not being met in real time, and then they get mad and say, well, that's why we're disappointed. Well, how can you be disappointed? Because when they look at the exit polls and they see that, well, such didn't vote, well, why are they going to talk to you? What's the point?
True issues are like an organization, because you want to put someone on a ballot, right? 8% of signatures within the state. That's in Florida, right? So there's a lot of things that are enacted because people put the work in, productivity. A lot of people don't want to put the work in. I guess they want to outsource that and hoping that, hey, you do it for me. But no, you get to start on the ground rules level. You're going to get the signatures. You put your money up. It might take, the average amount, it takes about 8 million in California. So about 8 million, you lobby, you put your dollars together, get 8% signatures, go door to door, and then put it on the ballot. That's it. They can't deny you. That's the process. But these guys don't want to work. So can't work, get upset about it, and outsource there's other people that no, take kind of right. Here's the state.
Hey, he's breaking
do the work. You want to change some.
Jay Charles, so we can't. Jay Charles, your mic is breaking up so badly we can't understand you, so I had to mute you. I want to make sure that you understand that no one can understand what you're saying.
No, I think I got.
Go ahead, MOT. What were you going to say?
What Jay Charles was saying is that if you're not organizing on the ground to actually get your actual ballot initiative on the ballot, no one is just going to vote off top for your issues so that way they could bring you to the polls next time. That's not how it works. You have to fight for your actual issues.
It's the opposite.
Whatever they are, yes, with everyone else. But see, they don't want to put the work in. They're like, oh, the outcome of the community. I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit about the outcome of the community if they're not showing up to vote. If you're not showing up to vote, if you're not with the productivity piece, like most of this stuff, like you cannot expect the government to come out with government programs to solve your productivity piece in your actual community. The actual reflection of the community is a reflection of the decisions that those people made for years to be in that condition, regardless of political outcomes. So the brokenness of the community has a lot to do with the parental issue, not the government issue. Because there's people who come here who still go to the productivity piece, are not really whining about relationship issues all the time to make money off of, and they have a better outcome. And they actually do the political piece too. Like there's a model here for success. We just have not followed it as a collective. Are we following it as an individual? Yes. Once you start talking that collective stuff about how you care about these people who don't participate, it's just worry for no reason. You're worried about people that you cannot help. There is no way you can help.
I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good place to end it. Thank